Hello, welcome to the Big Fight. You know something, if you don't like this show, the best thing to possibly do is to switch it off, not to come and either behead me or behead one of my guests, or cut off any of our noses, or try and burn the set down, or murder that gentleman sitting behind me. None of those are good things to do. And that probably is the way all of us should be approaching live movies, theatre, anything that we don't like. You don't like it, don't watch it, switch off, don't go around threatening people, burning people, trying to kill people, or making death threats. But that, unfortunately, is what seems to be par for the course right now. And of course, we've seen this happening most recently with Padmavati, but not only in this case. There have been a number of other cases. And now, with the deadline for the launch of Padmavati appearing, it's now gone up to threatening to cut off Deepika Padukone's nose, and death threats on various people, blocking of forts, shots were being fired. In fact, before I go any further on the show, let me just update you on the very latest on this particular drama.
Members of the Karni Sena have been protesting for the past 8 days against the movie Padmavati. As you can see, there are protesters behind me as well. They say that they are going to continue with their protests, and the protests may even get more violent in the upcoming days. Today, members of their group had also gathered in hundreds at the Kumbhalgarh fort near Udaipur, where they blocked any kind of entry to the fort. As far as action from the authorities is concerned, one FIR has been lodged so far against a man called Devendra Singh for opening fire yesterday at the Chittorgarh fort. From the police sources, we've got to know that many of these protesters have political backing, and therefore any kind of substantial action against them seems unlikely.
All right, let me now call a range of guests out here who are going to talk to us specifically about Padmavati and everything that's been happening with it, but also what it says about broader society, and is this going to be something that we should now expect to be par for the course? Should we, for example, not have any historical movies made ever again because someone or the other is going to disagree with it? While we're on that subject, even political movies probably should not be made because somebody or the other is going to disagree with it. And you can take that going forward and forward. You have a movie on women's rights, I'm sure somebody will object to it. Men's rights, probably objectionable as well. Somewhere in between, 100% objectionable. So yeah, you know what I'm getting at. But let me now welcome various guests whom we have with us right here in the studio. Great to have Sohail Seth joining us, who has extremely strong views on many of this. Shubhra Gupta, who's one of our best-known film critics, who no doubt is at some point starting to wonder what she's going to be criticizing if there are not going to be too many films out there.
Behead her.
At the rate that we seem to be going. No, don't behead her right now, please, in general.
Not
and
right now.
Irfan Habib, one of our best-known historians, who's got his own take on the history behind some of what is being said. Sanal Sasidharan joining us from Trivandrum, director of S. Durga, another film which has been very much in the headlines by virtue of it being dropped from the film festival. So we're going to get Sanal's views on that. Shaina NC joining us from Mumbai to tell us what she makes of all of this. We do have C.P. Singh joining us, who's the state vice president, self-styled of what calls itself the Karni Seva, and we'll get his views on where he thinks organizations begin and Gundagardi ends, or the vice versa. So I'll just come to him in a couple of minutes. But before I come to any of you, it's a great pleasure to have with us Shriji Arvind Singh Mewar of Udaipur. It's a pleasure to speak to you, Arvind Singh Ji. Just wanted to get your take on this, because all the ruckus that we are being seen right now is being presented as somehow Rajputs avenging an insult to Rajput pride. Is that the way you see it also?
All this ruckus that is going on is not something that I personally endorse. This is not the way to go forward. This is not the way to resolve controversy or the issue of Padmavati, which is getting muddier and muddier. As far as I'm concerned personally, I'd like to believe that I'm very liberal in many respects, but there are certain sensibilities which the Rajput community as a clan possess, and for some reason or the other, the non-Rajput may not be able to relate to it, and therefore it is imperative that somebody cleverer than me should make a more articulate presentation in making them understand about, for the present, let us say, the film. First of all, we have to make up our minds whether this film is a historical fact, whether it's a documentary, or whether it's a mere fiction. I do understand that a film cannot be made, a book cannot be written, an artist cannot paint without taking some liberties or artistic licenses. The issue is very different here. An artistic license cannot also be unbridled. And it can't be always in one direction, which is that it upsets a certain community to this extent to which they find that they have to recourse to such barbaric, antiquated means of reconciliation or present point of view.
Arvind Singh ji, I understand what you're saying, but just a couple of riders on that are, A, nobody seems to have actually seen the film right now. A lot of the anger was, why is she shown in a dream sequence romancing Alauddin Khilji, and it's been clarified that that doesn't exist in the film at all. No one seems to have seen the film yet to have something to object about, and the historical facts in this case, in any case, are somewhat uncertain because we're talking about stuff 700 years ago. It's still not 100% clear whether Padmavati was actually a historical figure in the first place or not. And if she wasn't, then this is basically fiction in any case.
Vikram, I appreciate the fact that we have not seen the movie, and therefore it might be a little bit premature. So if I say that this is how Mr. Bhansali has always marketed his movies, it could be that this is a very clever way of including the viewership. But at the same time, I personally am not asking, all I'm personally asking for is, in order to put this whole thing to bed, the thing is that it should be shown to some select committee so that all this, the clarity and the clarification and the truth will come out. My objection is that it can't be a factual movie then turned into a fiction.
I think that's a valid point, but supposing somebody, therefore, you can't give anybody threatening violence like the so-called Karni Sena the right to say, you must get our consent before you do anything, because then that's a very slippery path. But you're right, if somebody says this is a historical fiction, a documentary on Rajput history, then perhaps they can come and show it to you, show it to other people of some eminence in the community and saying, look, this is what we are showing. Is there something objectionable in it? And maybe somebody can say that, you know, yes, that's the case and that's not the case. That might be one way forward. The other way would be to say, leave it to the censor board and let them make up their minds.
No, the censor board is there under law to review these things. But mind you, Vikram, the censor board does not have a mandate to judge on the historicity of a movie and release it or not release it, because it's not part of their mandate.
Can I just ask you, sir, you of course know a lot about Rajput history. There's this entire debate about whether Rani Padmavati was ever actually part of history or not. There are some people who say, look, she was first mentioned actually in a poem that came out in 1540. There are some accounts that are saying she was 224 years after Alauddin Khilji. You know, so obviously any relationship between them would be, you know, absolutely impossible. Any interaction would be absolutely impossible. What is your sense? Was she a historical figure or not?
Vikram, I happen to belong to a family in which she was married.
Yes, that's why I'm asking you, sir. Who better than you to ask?
Therefore, I know for a fact that she was not a fiction. She was an individual in existence in Chittor. And the Johar took place. So I'm convinced that that is not fiction.
So you're saying she was married into your family, and therefore that incident absolutely took place. What, from whatever you've heard about the film Padmavati, to your mind, being part of that family, do you think is objectionable? What aspects of that would be objectionable?
Well, I don't want to come out into a list of things which are objectionable. I'm saying that there are licenses which are hurting the sensitivity. That is not meaning that they are objectionable.
Okay.
First of all, I mean, I think, look at the palace in which she lived, for instance. I have provided a historical document of a photograph of 1930 where depicting where she lived. And you see what the movie is depicting. Now, you might well say, how does it matter where she used to live and where she did not live? But it does matter, because after all, it's a question of a mindset.
Would you be open to having Sanjay Leela Bhansali come to you, show you the movie and saying, look, what is there in this that you think is bad enough to demand the banning of the film or the threatening of harm to people working in it?
That would be a very prudent move, and I would welcome it. And I would suggest that Sanjay Leela Bhansali should not just show it to me, but maybe some other eminent historians who can practically and positively and genuinely try and resolve this matter, because it is not in the interest of anybody. No one is winning, no one is losing. We are all losers.
Let me now just throw it open to the rest of you. I noticed you shaking your head while he was speaking, because he says she was married into my family, so I should know that she was there. And this is the photograph he was referring to, saying that was the house in which she used to live.
These claims are being made by people. She has made a claim that she was married into our family. Who will prove it? What is the evidence for that? What are the documents available for that? Well, we as students of history, we work on the basis of documents, documentary evidences, writings of people or the contemporary historians. So something should exist. Most of these claims which are being made are not being made only for Padmavati. This controversy we have to see in a broader context, what we are doing with history. Problem is that we want to actually escape from the present and get into the past, because that is something very easy.
It's not only Padmavati in one particular historical issue and the pride of the Rajputs. How many films have there been with which this happens? And it seems to be becoming the norm. You don't like something, you create a ruckus about it. Arvind Singh Mewat referred to the fact that this is also perhaps one way of marketing it, which is I guess, it's easy for both sides. It's a very easy way to get into the headlines by attacking a film and threatening, I'm going to cut off Deepika Padukone's nose. One way of getting into the headlines. He said it's also a way to market a film. Is that unkind?
You know, I think more than marketing or more than just talking about whether it's fiction and not fiction and documentary, I think we are becoming a country of, it's becoming Banistan. It's no longer Hindustan. We're becoming a country of Banistan. Why is it that if something I don't like something, I have to ban it? I don't like the red tie that you're wearing. Does that mean that you do not have the right to wear it? Right? Actually, it literally.
I started by saying this. You don't like it, I'm happy to take it off. Just don't cut off my neck to spite my tie.
I think it's so reductive now. There is no conversation around anything. What we are now doing is, I don't like it, don't do this.
Yeah.
What about a bigger debate? What about a larger country where we're looking at critical faculties being inculcated in our viewers? We give them, we ask.
Debate? I thought the whole point was that we have to shout at somebody.
We have to, okay, so I'm happy to shout at everyone right now, and I'm saying that at 18 we are allowed to vote, we are allowed to get married, we are allowed to have babies. Why are we not being allowed to watch what we want to watch? Let us, the viewers, decide what we want to watch, and then we can make up our mind. Box office is the final arbiter. You don't like a movie, don't watch it. It's as simple as that.
Is it as simple as that, Sohail?
We have all these stupid people, this Karni Sena, Bharni Sena, Marni Sena. These jokers are nothing but essentially bullies. Bullies are cowards. You give them airtime, because they say we'll behead someone, we'll kill someone. We have nothing else going on. I mean, half of Delhi is under smog. We can't even find our chief minister. The other half is worried about Padmavati. I mean, I don't know where this debate is. With all respect to Arvind Singh, I mean, why on earth should Sanjay Leela Bhansali show him a movie? When I last checked, he wasn't a great film critic. He wasn't a cinematographer. He wasn't a film director. He's certainly no historian. I mean, the Venerable Irfan Habib has challenged him on his family lineage, in a manner of speaking. I think it is utter rubbish. We are allowing people to get away with blue murder in this country. If these people have threatened with a beheading, the police can take suo motu action without waiting for any FIR or a court of law. A. B. If you don't stop this thuggery will continue unabated and it will escalate in every facet of our lives. These people must allow the creative personalities of our country, no matter who they are, they must allow them their artistic freedom if it is within the domain of certification. A. B. You have a problem with Bhansali, there is a process in this country. You write to the goddamn ministry, you write to the CBFC, nothing works, go to the Supreme Court. How on earth can you take the law in your own hands? Diya Kumari, some princess erstwhile from the Jaipur royal family, says, oh, I feel insulted, I will not allow. This is rubbish. She's a BJP person. Shaina NC and her colleagues must take her to task. Vasundhara Raje Scindia is the presiding chief minister, 1 minute, an ex-royal. You allow a cinema hall to be vandalized. You don't arrest those people. You don't put them behind bars. Are we becoming a goddamn banana republic? Why don't you show these people where they belong, which is behind bars? Not allowing creative freedom in this country is the death of our secularism, is the death of our multilateralism, and is the death of our culture.
Shaina, let me get you in on this. He says, what's the BJP doing about it, and why can't you rein in your own MLAs and others who are saying, this will not be allowed? Who is anyone to allow or not allow anything in a free country? Unless it's defamatory or patently wrong or immoral or all of the above.
I think that in a democracy, we should encourage healthy debate on an emotion which is based on historical facts. But where the question comes to play is when there is vandalism. There is no scope for vandalism, and our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, himself has said for any kind of Sena that is pretending to be the moral custodian of society and vandalize, they will be dealt with appropriately.
Shaina, in addition to vandalism, what happens when somebody is making death threats or threats of physical harm, saying we're going to cut off Deepika Padukone's nose? Does that also come into the category of action that should require or necessitate police action?
The state government is empowered to give safety security to people who are threatened and who are bullied. And I think that more importantly, we as a society should not embolden them or give them this free airtime that they're so happily engaging with, and where they're trying to get their 2 minutes of moment of glory and publicity. I mean, who are they to even talk about beheading or threatening any individual in this country, be it Deepika Padukone or just be it the common girl on the street? In a state like Maharashtra, if you had a film made on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, you would probably see the same kind of hue and cry and people on the street in lakhs and lakhs, because there is an emotion attached to historical legends. So let's not dismiss that too. If there is an opinion, please reserve it for after seeing the movie, because we don't even know if it is an act of fiction or it is a historical.
Arvind Singh Mewat, I know you have to leave us, sir. Just one last quick comment from you. You heard what was just said right now, that why should anybody be allowed to, especially without seeing the movie, allowed to say you have to show it to us or clear it to us or have a say in that? Would you like to respond to that before you leave us?
I responded to your question that if Mr. Bhansali wanted to show it to me, what would be my reaction? My reaction would be that I would welcome it. Because I don't have a constitutional right to ask anybody to show me a movie. It is only trying to diffuse the situation. Excellent. And this confrontational attitude is not going to resolve anything.
Arvind Singh Mewat essentially saying that you don't have to show it to him, but if it helps you diffuse the situation, he's offering his good offices, which is welcome. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having joined us.